All right, so tonight's Tuesday Notary Tune-up, we're going to go over the notary misdemeanor trap, 3 prohibited acts that can revoke your North Carolina commission. So when it comes to prohibited acts, there are some that are non-negotiables for us here in the state of North Carolina, so please pay attention. So the definition of a prohibited act is a specific action or behavior that a notary public is not allowed to engage in as defined by applicable laws and regulations. The purpose, it upholds the integrity, security, and public trust required by your public official commission. And the focus is understanding these acts is crucial to maintaining legal compliance and avoiding professional and criminal penalties in the state of North Carolina. So when it comes to the most serious prohibition identity fraud risks, taking acknowledgement or administering an oath or affirmation without personal knowledge or satisfactory evidence of the principal's identity is prohibited. The consequence, this is a Class 1 misdemeanor under North Carolina General Statutes 10B-60, which can lead to revocation of your notary commission and a permanent criminal record. You want to avoid this. What fails the satisfactory evidence test is North Carolina General Statutes 10B-322. And then Social Security cards, birth certificates, credit cards, or club memberships are not government issued or lack required features when these are not acceptable forms of identification that's considered satisfactory evidence. And now, if you're dealing with an expired ID, the document must be current. So there is a new law that passed July 1st of 2025 that gives drivers or anyone with a state issue ID, whether it's a driver's license or it's mainly state IDs, but still understanding that this law is giving them a 2-year um, waiver so that if it expires after July 1st of 2025, they do have 2 years after that date to actually renew without penalty. So that means if they go through a traffic stop and their ID is expired, they will not get a ticket for that. If they are carded, their ID will be honored. However, as a notary public, we cannot accept an expired ID, even though the DMV has given this extension. It does not apply to what we have to follow based on general statute. So it's very important for you to educate customers, consumers, the general public of this fact so that they will also understand if they have an expired ID for the reason of it being challenging for them to actually get it renewed on time, they must have either a passport that is current or use a credible witness if you don't know them personally. So those are the things that is very important. So for marketing, I like to be able to help notaries understand how to position yourself to help the public by putting information out there on your social media platforms, your web pages, as well as your Google business profile. Us being able to help the consumers know what to expect when they're going to have documents notarized is very important. To become the expert in what we do as a public official, you want to make sure you're educating others as you yourself are very confident in where the information can be found. So that way, if there's a challenge of you've been fact checked, you can actually know where the information is. So any document like in both a photographic image of the person's face and either the person's signature or a physical description, again, is something that cannot be acceptable. So the golden rule, if the ID is incomplete or expired, stop. Do not notarize. We are not obligated to do so. So please understand what our power is and be able to position ourselves to protect ourselves as well as the general public. So when it comes to prohibited notarial services, we're going to go over certifying copies, foreign language certificates, acting as legal counsel, so that you will have more clarity on what we can and cannot do when it comes to what's prohibited and what we offer. So for us as North Carolina notaries, we are specifically prohibited from performing certain actions, such as certifying copies. A notary public cannot perform the process of copy certification, meaning notarizing a photocopy as a true and accurate representation of the original. This function is performed through the authentication department at the Secretary of State. We have to understand that we cannot look at a document and say, okay, this looks like the original. You made a copy of that, everything looks the same. That is, again, certifying a copy that we cannot move forward in notarizing. The authentication department is created for that purpose, and there's a process called the apostille where we would have the customer on their true copy affidavit. We will have them complete that document where they are certifying, or better yet, acknowledging and swearing under oath that this information is a true copy. And so it's a testimony from them and not us. This testimony is written on that true copy affidavit, and then we go and notarize it. So now we have them attach that true copy with the copy of that particular document, and now it can go to the Secretary of State's Authentication Department, where now they can go through the apostille to confirm this statement to actually authenticate that document or apostille that document. So again, you have to understand there's other steps involved. All we're doing is notarizing what we have the ability to notarize. And if there is not a affidavit before us or um, a loose certificate, we cannot move forward for this purpose. So please do ask questions if you really still need more clarity on how that process works to avoid violating the law. Foreign language certificates. A notary in North Carolina cannot notarize a document unless a notarial certificate is written in the English language. For example, you may have a document that's actually written in Portuguese. As long as the notarial certificate is in English, we can actually notarize the document as long as everything else is actually correct, meaning we have properly identified the person before us. The name is clearly so that we can document the notarial certificate and making sure that, again, there's nothing that is blank that needs to be filled in the document. Now, if you are a bilingual notary and you speak Portuguese, understand Portuguese, you again may be able to read everything and understand it on that document. But remember, our position as a notary public is not to understand the content of the document. We just have to make sure we do our checks when it comes to who's before us, if the information and their name is on the document, if the name is matching what's on their ID, and that the verbiage when it comes to the notarial certificate is accurately printed so we can move forward with notarizing again the notarial certificate. So with that being said, if the notarial certificate may be in Portuguese, and again, you can read it, you can write it, you can understand it for what the general statute specifically says. That's fine if you have that ability to do so, but you cannot notarize that document in that format. So that means you will have to either attach a loose certificate by the choice of your consumer to actually choose a jurat or an acknowledgement. And if the verbiage says sworn and you know that it is a sworn statement, then there's not a option to give them. You automatically add the sworn oath, or I should say the jurat, to the document and have them choose if they want to swear under oath or if they want to affirm. So again, this is very important to understand and know how to position yourself in directing the person that you're assisting on what their options are. So once again, we cannot ever notarize a document that the notarial certificate is not in the English language. There's no exceptions to that when it comes to what the statute clearly says. And then acting as legal counsel. A notary public is prohibited from giving legal advice or drafting legal documents. So please be very, very careful and mindful, notaries, that when you are working with any individual, depending on what other services that you do offer, you do not write up anything that the customer is asking you to do because you're not an attorney. We have to understand what our positions are as a notary public and make sure that we're refraining from anything else that can actually put us in a position of unauthorized practice of law. So if someone says, hey, Belinda, can you actually write me up a contract? I really want to make sure that everything between me and my client is covered, and I do want to have it notarized as well. Well, whether they said to have it notarized or not, I legally cannot draft this document because they inquired or asked me to do so. If they're having challenges to actually typing this out and they actually are telling me word for word, that still is something that I would probably stay away from because you don't want to ever be put in a position where you're considered doing something that you should not be in a position as a notary public. So the goal is for you to again understand how to protect yourself and the public from any situation of unauthorized practice of law. If they ask a question about the document, we cannot answer. So again, here in the state of North Carolina is very, very clear. We are in an attorney state. We have to understand what the responsibilities are for an attorney versus a notary. As a notary public, we have the responsibility to, again, properly identify a person that's personally appearing before us, going through making sure the ID is not expired, making sure the ID looks like it's authentic, and then moving forward with reviewing the documentation and notarizing where the notarial certificate is. So again, if you stay in your lane, you will be okay. So when it comes to boundaries and duty violations, violating the boundaries of your commission is a prohibited act. So exceeding jurisdictional limits, notaries are prohibited from performing notarial acts outside the state of North Carolina. Notary jurisdiction defines the geographical area within which you can legally operate. So we are a state that is a sister state to South Carolina. Okay, we're the Carolinas, right? You have some notaries that are dual commissioned, and it can happen only one way for a notary to have both a South Carolina and a North Carolina commission. In the state of South Carolina, if you are a resident there, meaning that you're a voter, you can become commissioned. And if you happen to work in North Carolina and or have a business in North Carolina, you can also become commissioned. So those that live in South Carolina can be dual commissioned in that way. Unfortunately, it doesn't work the other way around because once again, the first rule of thumb for South Carolina, you have to be a resident. So if you reside in North Carolina, you're a voter in North Carolina. You cannot have dual residency to vote in both states. So the goal is for you to understand what you can and cannot do. So if you're here in the state of North Carolina, you can become a commissioned notary. If you work at a business that wants you to be a notary for the company, you can get your commission. If you have your own business established in the state of North Carolina, you can be commissioned. So those are the three different ways that you can be commissioned here in the state of North Carolina. But once again, it's different when it comes to dual. So the goal is to understand if you are a dual notary, please do make sure that if you are South Carolina coming to North Carolina to meet a customer or client to notarize documents, that you're using your North Carolina notary stamp and not your South Carolina notary stamp, because that would be a big problem if you are in the wrong jurisdiction, meaning physically in the state of North Carolina versus South Carolina, and you're not using the right seal. So that is something that you have to always keep in mind. Now, if someone from the state of Texas, California, Florida, New York is here in the state of North Carolina, they have documents that need to be notarized. We have the ability to notarize those documents as long as it does not specifically say it has to be state specific for the notary to notarize that document. If there's no restrictions in that way, then yes, as long as we're in any of the 100 counties in the state of North Carolina, we can definitely notarize those documents. Now, you have to pay attention to how the notarial certificate is written or printed because some of these documents have pre-printed states as well as the county. We have the ability, the power to correct those things by striking through the wrong state that's listed, initialing it, and then putting North Carolina. The same for the county, striking it through, initialing it, and writing down the county that we're physically standing in during the time of the notarization. And then moving forward with everything else as who personally appeared before you, today's date, you signing your name, printing your name, if it requires your name to be printed on that document, because we can't leave blank. And if your commission expiration date line is there, you fill that in. Your stamp may actually have your expiration date on it, but if the notarial certificate asks for it, you will still add it on there too, because once again, we are not supposed to leave anything blank on our notarial certificate. So we want to just make sure we fill those things in. Failure to maintain required resources. So the North Carolina Secretary of State legally requires all notaries to carry the most recent publication of the Notary Handbook, specifically mentioning the 2016 edition of the North Carolina Notary Public Manual. Failure to do so hinders your compliance. This is mentioned because you have notaries that are grandfathered in if they have become a notary and maintained their status before the year, I want to say 1990. And so with that, they only have to take or fill out the application, pay the money up to the Secretary of State to get renewed. Well, for those that had not been very mindful of the changes and updates, again, if it was before 1990, they're grandfathered in 2006, this new manual, excuse me, in 2016, a new manual came into play, which is what we're using now, the green manual. Prior to that, there was other manuals. So they are responsible for making sure they pay for and have in their possession 2016 edition. Now, thankfully, we do have the pleasure to look forward to having a newer manual for this year of 2026, and the expectation is in April. At the UNC School of Law website, you'll be able to see the update of the expectation of the new manual. The price is $35, and what includes in this book is like three books in one. You're going to have your updated information for what's in the 2016 manual, plus a section for the electronic notary for in-person electronic notary. And then we're going to have the remote electronic notary section. So we're going to have three different types of ways that we can notarize for someone in the one manual. And that's a great thing. Whether you decide to move forward and maintain an electronic notary commission or not, you still have the information before you. So that just makes things easier when it comes to access. Non-notarial capacity clarity. When performing non-notarial functions, such as acting as an authorized representative on a United States CIS Form I-9, you must understand you are not using your notarial powers in this way. which prevents the misrepresentation of your official authority. So, as an authorized representative, there is a section that specifies authorized representative and what title you are using as a person who's actually filling this information out. So, notaries public are known to be recognized to actually complete this portion of an I-9 just because we are well versed and trained in properly identifying someone. This document properly identifies the person who is going to be employed. So they have a list on the attached application of what documents is acceptable, and you have to make sure you follow that information. There is an instruction page. Every federal government document has instructions. We can take the time to read over this information so we can actually better prepare ourselves to act in this capacity. This document is not regulated by statute when it comes to how much you can charge to fill this out. You will be responsible to meet the person, identify them, fill out the information. You don't have to charge them. However, this is a service that you have the ability to charge. I don't charge more than $50 because I account for my travel and my time when I'm actually assisting an employee for this. Now, again, this is a mutual agreed upon amount. I usually have a flat rate listed on my social media, my website, my Google Business profile, so that it's very clear what they can expect when these documents are to be completed. Because again, it's not a notarization, but my title when I do fill this document out is Notary Public. My full commission name is written, as well as my contact information, my mailing address, as well as my phone number and email address. These things are very important because this is something that needs to be recorded if you are helping someone in this capacity. So, again, if you understand exactly how to follow instructions, you should be fine. Again, if you are not clear on how to move forward with this, just contact me and I'll walk you through it. But the goal is for you to understand that this is another service offering that you can definitely add to the services that you currently have. Consequences and final takeaway. Failure to adhere to these prohibitions results in professional and legal liability. Consequences of misconduct. Violations can lead to severe penalties, including potential civil liability, being sued for damages. Now, this is going to go back to having the proper insurances and permanent revocation of your commission, where you cannot perform your duties as a notary any longer. When you're talking about someone suing you for any damages because of anything that you have, again, did that was prohibited, you want to have the proper insurance, errors and omissions. Again, errors and omissions protect any error or omission in the notarial certificate. That is the only document, again, part of the document that we're responsible for when we're notarizing for someone. If, again, an error where the name Michael may be Mich, um, Ael may be spelled Eal, or vice versa, and everyone spells it differently. So again, if it's not the name that's on the ID, then you have made an error. Okay, if that error is not caught, that could cause monetary damages. If you have an omission where there's not a indication of adding your expiration for your commission date on that particular notarial certificate, we have to remember to add it if it's not on our stamp. Okay. So if it's not there, this person may decide to reject the document, causing a delay, and it could, again, cause monetary damages. So when it comes to a lawsuit, many times it's because of monetary damages. So you want to make sure that you're, again, create a checklist to make sure that you're not missing these important steps as you're notarizing. This can happen to a new notary and a veteran. It can happen to any of us. So again, you want to create provisions to help make sure that you're staying on top of everything. Risk management. Protecting yourself requires strict adherence to the satisfactory evidence rule, understanding and maintaining your jurisdictional limits, commitment to continuing education to stay updated on all new laws and best practices. Final actionable tip: always be learning. Regularly consult your notary handbook and stay engaged with training. Our Tuesday Notary Tune-ups are one of the things that notaries can definitely look forward to getting more information, having more insight on specific topics and subject matter, as well as getting a lot of their questions answered during the time that we're meeting for that hour that many times do now go over 15, 20 minutes just because we're so engaged and it's not a rush. So for those that are able to, again, come on at 6:30, just know we usually run an hour to 7:30 and it may linger because of conversation. The goal is to set you guys up for success with having this as an additional resource to give you the support that you deserve as a notary public to have. So I am here to help you in the best way possible. And the goal is, again, to have information that can, again, help you along with your education and your training while you're preparing yourself to be the most confident and proficient notary to help the public. The goal is to reach for excellence, not perfection, because there's no such thing. And as long as you're constantly going through your notary manual, being able to highlight, ask questions to get clarity, you are on the right path of becoming very successful being an expert as a notary public. So again, there's room for growth for all of us. So please do not feel as if though you have to be at a certain place in your notary journey to get assistance. Okay. I meet you where you are. So I do offer mentorship with the TNTs, the Tuesday Notary Tune-ups, as well as training, which I have in person and also online throughout the year, as well as coaching opportunities for one-on-one. So you have several ways of getting the right information here for North Carolina notaries at all times. And if there's something that comes about that I am not actually sure about, I will take the time to investigate to get the information to get back to you with the answer. All right. So I thank you guys for taking the time to watch our replay. Please subscribe, like, and share this with fellow notaries. Subscribing to our channel is going to be very helpful because we want to reach our 1,000 subscribers and going forward. But we're in the first quarter, so yes, your support in this way is very, very appreciated. Again, liking the videos, interacting with us. If you have a comment or suggestion while you're hearing the information that's been played, please make a comment. Tell us if it brought you value, if it has helped you in any way. This is how others can start engaging and we can become more visible to other notaries in the state that, again, need to know they have a support system for them. So thank you guys for, again, your contribution in that way. I look forward to seeing you guys on our next Tuesday Notary Tune-up. So enjoy your day. Thank you.